ik ook, zou ook. Maar het is een opname, dus maakt niet uit. Hij is nog om die paal heen. Ja, nu nog steeds. Nu blijft de rood inderdaad hangen. Ja.
Hello, and you're very welcome to the beautiful side of Thessaloniki. We're in Greece for the first day of racing, the 20th edition of the International Tour of Hellas, and it's a double helping of racing for the riders. They've already had short time trial today. This is the first road race of the week, a short affair, 92 kilometers in total, as the riders make their way out of the iconic sites in Greece's second city, the other capital, as they say, heading towards Katerini today. As you can see, there's one little lump along the way, category 3 climb, which ought not be too complication for the big sprinters who have travelled to Greece as part of 20 teams. Weather conditions absolutely perfect. It's not too hot, it's not too cold. The wind is not particularly challenging, although we are coming off the sea here, so that's always an extra asterisk for that one. And the likelihood of rain, well, it's pretty much unlikely to rain. These images from earlier on today, a 6-kilometer prologue out and back time trial, just one hairpin bend along the way, and the winner of the prologue from 12 months ago, Aaron Gate, sitting pretty, running early order with the Burgos BH squad now, the Oceania International Time Trial champion, and the winner, of course, of Tour of Hellas in 2022. A great track superstar over the years. And Aaron Gate, a great all-round bike rider in every sense, setting a time that looked unbeatable for a while, 67 seconds, well north of 50 kilometers an hour. And Aaron Gate looked as if he was sitting pretty for the title and for the second successive year to take the time trial opener to the Tour of Hellas. Great effort from the Czech time trial champion Jano Truba, within 4 seconds of Aaron Gate's time, and then last man into action. Great to see that the Tour of Hellas this year has the 2 most recent champions, and Yuri Leitao of the Rural squad coming back to defend his title. He snatched the title at the death 12 months in the Tour of Hellas, and he did something similar in the opening day of action here as Leitao, who was 8th in last year's prologue. Significant improvement on that number. All the riders, all 118 riders in action on their road bikes, so no time trial bikes in action, but Yuri Leitao get a performance to eclipse the time of Aaron Gate. Last man into action, last man home, 4 seconds to the good, and taking the early general classification. All smiles for the Portuguese star as he completes the first major general classification appointment of the week, and continues on where he left off 12 months ago. Leitao, your winner on into an early but narrow advantage on general classification. 4.13 seconds ahead of Gaeta, Truba, Orsinger and the rest. Time to spray the bubbly, but with a little bit of road race action to go. Much opportunity to partake of the delights.
Τελικά δεν έβρεξε, αλλά βρέξει σαμπάνια στις απονομές, παιδιά.
Overall race lead, of course, and the early lead in the points classification.
Ιδανικός καιρός σήμερα.
For Yuri Leitao, he's got the blue jersey on his shoulders and escorted to the front in the company of the other jersey holders or jersey wearers. Aaron Gates wearing the points jersey on behalf of the overall race leader. Yuri Leitao, leader of the young rider classifications. An interesting rider, Bogdan Zablinski's riding for Cyprus these days, but he's got a very interesting lineage. We'll tell you about that. And the opening ceremony is complete, and the riders head away. The mountains jersey is on the shoulders of Jakob of Truba, although we have the first mountains completed during this afternoon's second half of the first stage. Aaron Gate looking pretty relaxed. And that red points jersey, he's got flowing tresses, New Zealand style. They do like a mullet in that part of the world. Indeed, he's not even the only New Zealander with a mullet on the Burgos BH squad. George Jackson has a particularly impressive example of the genre. These images recorded just a short while ago. Races have not been into action for too long, but a long neutralized section taking them out of the urban sprawl of Thessaloniki, and very quickly it was a protracted effort to get into the break. This looked like it had legs for a little while. Very strong group of 7 riders. Was it 6? 6 riders indeed, clear of the field. And it looked as if they might have a little bit of a chance of extending their advantage, but the peloton maybe just concerned there were too many teams, too many riders, such a short stage. The competition to get into that early move has been intense, and as we pick up the live pictures out on the road, we're into action proper now on this first road race stage. They call it stage 1B, it's not stage 2, it's not stage 1. The prologue time trial this morning wasn't a separate prologue, it's double day, as they call them, what they used to call them back in the day. Once upon a time, this was the kind of thing that was standard fare in even the biggest stage races, indeed especially the biggest stage races, Tour de France, but it's slightly different, and it's a unique and an interesting idea, I think, to give the riders 2 different helpings of action, give the fans as well. And as you can see, nothing is sticking just yet, so that 6-rider group closed in. The Bike Aid squad had representation in it. The Araskip Capital squad from Australia also showing plenty of initiative. The Mashowski Polski squad, Division 3 outfit from UCI Continental ranks from Poland. Konrad Chabok trying his luck, not quite able to manage it. Philip Heinen as well from the Park Hotel Valkenburg. Great to see the Dutch development outfits. They've brought up so many riders over the years, and of course I had a fabulous women's outfit a couple of years ago as well. In that early move, didn't quite stick. Joseph Dernbauer as well from Team Feldmeier, the Austrian lineup. They've got a very interesting collection of riders that include Hermann Pernsteiner, the former star climber from the World Tour. Bit of action as well from Vinny Monzon's Savine Due, Romanian registered team with plenty of interest and connections with Italy. So now 2 riders stretching clear. Looks as if the Vinny Monzon squad are up for the fight today. It's a very similar jersey to the Cyprus national jersey, so we'll just wait a moment before we commit and find out exactly who this is. The Elkov Kasper squad as well. Looking anxiously over his shoulders. We've got a pretty sprinter in Lukasz Kubis. We'll watch out to see how he gets on today. The Elkov Kasper squad is a Czech registered team. ordinarily on the first day of a stage race, it wouldn't be a sustained push for the breakaway, but it's such a short stage today. There's so many teams that believe they've got an advantage, and of course we think back not too far into the dim and distant past of this particular event. It was a sensational first day of racing action 2 years ago that propelled Aaron Gate into what would ultimately be an unassailable race-winning situation, and Gate went on to take that title. It was the return, wasn't it, for the Tour of Hellas. It's had a sort of stop-start history since 1968, the first edition in 1968. It became known as the Tour of Hellas just a few years after that, and then ran intermittently and consistently through into the 80s when it stopped for quite a while, returned, and then another hiatus after 2012, and then back as a newly instituted, reinvented, reformed, and renewed in every sense. And it's been a very, very worthy and entertaining addition to the racing calendar of the UCI over the last couple of years. I've had the pleasure of calling the pictures from this particular event in 2022 and 2023, and it really is stuff. I mean, whatever it is about the parkour, the route, and the riders that assemble at the event, it just tends to lead to really terrific and exciting racing. Still, the elastic hasn't quite snapped. You see the Grenadian national road race and time trial champion Red is trying to chance his arm and flex his legs and see if he can take X-Speed United Continental squad into a break. This is Walters on the front here, and his distinctive national champions colours. Plenty of national champions in this event, in actual fact. I mentioned the time trial champions from this morning. The Aaron Gate, of course, is the national road race champion of New Zealand. We congratulate him on that, scoring that result earlier on in the year. It's also the continental Oceania Continental Time Trial champion. So we started a few minutes late, but we're going to make that time up with this kind of intensity of action, well over 50 kilometers an hour for the riders as they charge along in pursuit on day one. Bonus seconds on the line as well, of course, so Letao will feel a little bit vulnerable, although he's a very, very accomplished sprinter, particularly good at sprinting if the group has been whittled down. Fascinating handlebar arrangement on the front of that bike, aren't they? Isn't it interesting? Cockpit organisation. From the rider from the Araskip Capital squad. In total, as I mentioned, we've got 13 of those at UCI Continental level. We've got 5 UCI Pro Series teams, about which and from which much will be expected. They are Burgos BH, of course, of Aaron Gate and friends, Caja Rural of Yuri Leita, leader and reigning champion. Team Corotec Vinny Fantini have got a crack lineup that include Jakub Morechko, their star sprinter. He's on good form at the moment. Watch out for them. Kind of going favourite, I think, for me at the outset of today's road racing action. Team Novo Nordisk have come with a great all-round lineup. Kind of splitting up there. It's kind of sparky, isn't it? And the fifth and final of our pro team, UCI Pro Team squads, is the VF Group Bardiani CSF Faisane. To give them their delightfully long-winded and unwieldy and very Italian name, moniker. That's your 5 UCI Pro teams. We also have a couple of national squads. Cyprus that I mentioned a little earlier, and of course the national team of Greece. Proud moment for their 6-rider lineup, which includes Polychronos Tortsakas, well known to fans of bike racing here and abroad, and Nikiforos Arvanitou is a pretty handy sprinter as well. Watch out to see how he can get on, indeed how they line up at the end of the day. Will it come down to the bunch sprint? That's very much expected, but there's a certain investment of energy to get into this early move. 4 riders now, with one trying to clip across. The more the merrier, but of course in a short stage the bunch always nervous about letting a break take much of an advantage. It's not easy to ride across that gap, but this is an impressive piece. So we're going to get in. There's another one of these Cyprus riders, or perhaps the Vinnie Monzon squad. The Alassi's got a crack. Plenty of riders in that peloton. It'll be fascinating to hear the stories afterwards of who found the start particularly challenging. Very brisk beginning to proceedings. And though this morning's time trial was only 6 kilometres and absolutely pan flat, the intensity of the effort required, actually the organisers had to extend, the commissars had to extend the time limit to ensure that everybody kept racing. That's often the way with short time trials. They can be very dangerous affairs in terms of the threat of the time cut. And a lot of riders will have found it quite challenging to get those legs going again after the break, and a lot on their turbo after the time trial this morning, and no doubt before the start of what's a very short stage for these riders. So you can expect, with only about 2 hours of race action today, some riders will only be getting going at that point. Seems like it's very much an endurance event, of course, but 2 hours, well, it's probably only about half distance for the reasonable endurance levels of pretty much everyone in the field. There are many that can handle the 5 and 6 hour road races as well. Quite a number of the riders in this particular event have competed in Grand Tours, tours of Italy, France and Spain. Just one rider, to the best of my knowledge, has done all three. UCI have tidied up the regulations, of course, regarding the hand positions and exactly what you are and aren't allowed to do. And of course, there have been various manufacturers have been working to see what they can do to sort of not so much circumvent the rule as maximize the opportunity for those riders, and lots of bespoke handlebar options starting to appear on the market. I think that's likely to be one of them. Meanwhile, in the main peloton, the St. Piran squad with their distinctive black outfits coming from Cornwall in the southern tip of the United Kingdom. By gate. Yamane perhaps is trying to stretch his legs. Le Bouvier, very useful sprinter for them.
Beetje rechts dan. Let up. Hij volgt. Naar links.
Arcade squad, German registered team. Meanwhile, in the main peloton, head down and asking for more is Ritziger. Ritziger was in that little move that was pulled back just before we came on air. I also saw, well, this is Marcello Felipe from the Victoria Sports Pro Cycling team, Filipino-based squad. They've got 2 Filipino nationals in their lineup. Marcello Felipe and Ramos Carlos Ochoa. Well, are we going to end up with just one rider? There's a few others. Oh no, it's yes, this is our leaders. Indeed, that makes more sense now. 1 and 5. Oh, it's agonizing stuff. You know, when you attack to try and get across, Eritrean David Jemane, as I said, is making a brave bid. And the peloton happy enough, and you sense that he's only really got a couple of kilometers to make it, because you're going such a high rate, and it's such an energy expenditure that it's not something that can be sustained for very long. They usually say it takes about 4 or 5 kilometers to establish a breakaway. Similarly, you've only got 4 or 5 kilometers to get into one. Very often as well, if you're off the back of a group or you find yourself puncturing and having to get bike change or whatever, 4 or 5k is about a number. It's tough to do it after that. Then if they keep riding, as the rider shelled out of this breakaway, so they're not hanging around. Yamane's got to pick up the slipstream, albeit briefly. Might be a reprieve for this rider, but 3 against 1 already. One rider jettisoned. That's remarkable. So full-blooded pitch here from these riders. Again, their effort that they're riding at currently, not sustainable. Marcello doing a wonderful job, and Yamane's in trouble here, I think. And it looked as if he was going to get on, but as I said, you've only got a few kilometers of that kind of investment. What he needs now is the peloton to slow up. If the bunch decide, you know, we're happy with this, we'll give them a couple of minutes. We're not going to fight anymore for the break. We're just going to settle in and try and save our legs as best we can for the sprint later on. And they're happy enough to give the break a couple of minutes, then close it down again later into the second hour of racing. Well, that could be good news for Yamane. He'll continue to push because he believes that he'll understand that they might settle in a little bit. So your 3 breakaway riders are starting to work in perfect synchronicity in these early moments. Yamane. Yeah, I'm almost contradicting myself here, but you know, you got to get it done in the first couple of kilometers or so, or else what he needs is that group up front to start to reduce their tempo, and they're not doing that just yet until they've established a decent advantage. No word yet about the time gap they have. Suffice it to say, the bunch are out of sight. And this fast moving comprised of rider from Team Feldmar. That's Felix Ritziger, he of the canted in brake levers and the unique handlebar arrangement. Then we have Felipe Marcello at the back. Felipe, apologies. Groups off the back here, just working their way back in. I suspect the peloton have settled in, so 1 or 2 riders may have just taken the opportunity for a natural break, and your overall race leader among them. When the race leader says that that he feels he can stop for a natural break, very often lots and lots of other riders do the same thing. And as you can see, there's 1 or 2 riders left and right of the field who have decided that this is an opportune moment to take a break. Meanwhile, group up front have no such thoughts. Got to make the most of it while they have. Contrast in physical characteristics among these riders, as Felix Ritzinger, clearly a very tall rider, likes to settle in for the long haul. Marcelo Felipe, the 3rd rider, by the way, is Christoph Janssen from the X-Speed United Continental squad, just rolling to the front here. So 3 in. We'll keep a weather eye as best we can on the whereabouts of David Yamane. See whether he can get involved. No surprise as well that Cal Rural have set up in the front of the main peloton. They are the team representing the interests of the overall race leader, Yuri Leitao, who's just nestling in the top 10, just behind his teammates. Corotec Vini Fantini as well, many people's favourite. Looks like a soft rear wheel, doesn't it? Or is it? For that rider. Steph Cunning of the Parkertel Valkenburg. He'll be delighted with the fact that his he wants to get a consultation with the doctor. Has he been off his bike already? He's looking for the magic spray. I wonder if he's not just got some sort of overuse injury or wear injury. No evidence there of a crash, and we certainly haven't seen any riders off their bike. Maybe just a little niggle that he's arrived into the race with. So big responsibility, naturally enough, be asked to do a lot of the chasing on behalf of their Yuri Leitao. Could be a long day for them. There we go. Yamane has 30 seconds to find to get on terms with these riders, and I don't think they'll be having one. Gap up to 1.5 minutes on the peloton. That's not yet a winning advantage either. You see quite a brisk pursuit race. The shorter the race, the faster the average speed. The natural way of it, according to the road book, the slowest anticipated average speed for the stage, it would be around about 43 kilometers an hour. I have a feeling it's going to be a little bit faster than that. And Koenig seems content now and make his way back into the main peloton without too much difficulty. Bit of consultation between the Corotec Vini Fantini squad. Valerio Conti it is who's clearly up the role of captain. He's the one on the left-hand side as you look at the riders there, his arm around the shoulders of one of his teammates. And Valerio Conti, of course, will be well known to fans of the Giro d'Italia. He led the race for bones of a week a few years ago. Janssen, young Swiss rider. Great opportunity for him. Felipe Marcelo, as you can see, is comfortably the shortest rider. Also, I believe, the more senior. He's 34 years of age now. Overall winner of the Prologue PH in the Philippines a few years ago. Still waiting for a win this year. Finished 9th in his National Criterium Championships. Meanwhile, Ritzinger, the Austrian rider from Team Felbermayr, with those distinctive and unique handlebars that give them the maximum opportunity to get into an aerodynamic tuck. There's Marcelo. Marcelo 107th in this morning's time trial. Already some way adrift on general classification. Ritzinger, by contrast, was a very impressive 4th. So Ritzinger here is quite the threat and an interesting play. Clearly doesn't trust his pace in the final finishing sprint, so he's decided to go raiding in the break. And fascinating indeed to see a rider who was so powerful and so strong this morning making a play for glory. Decent effort as well this morning from Christoph Janssen. He was 31st, so we've got some big engines in here. And Marcelo is in amongst some very, very strong competition here. It could be interesting to see how much breakfast he's got, how much energy he's got for the fight. They do have that climb to think about, by the way. Statistics on it, apart from the fact that we'll reach the summit of it just inside 25 kilometers from the line. So it's far enough from the finish line to, I think, pretty much guarantee that the sprinters should be able to get over it and get back into contention if they're delayed. And it's just the very knowledge of that fact probably means that it won't be ridden particularly at the huge intensity. Having said that, it does offer an opportunity to distribute mountain points, and we'll have our first King of the Mountains jersey classification holder by right at the end of the day. And somewhat frustratingly, he got into the move and then got shelled. It just shows you how impressive. Well, this is Cunning, actually, who's just on the back. Do you know what? I think Cunning was the rider from Park Hotel Valkenburg who was in that group and found himself off the back of it and was back looking for assistance from the medical car. So he didn't get shelled because he couldn't keep up as much as he may have just acquired some sort of an injury. We do wish him well, and of course he needs to try and finish the stage and maybe fix it overnight, but he'll have to have an assessment. There'll be a conversation with the Park Hotel Valkenburg director sportif. They'll have to make an analysis of his, whether it is an injury that he can rehab overnight, or whether they might be a little bit concerned that he'll just be doing further damage by riding while he's waiting. So decision to be made. 118 riders in total, by the way, starting the day. Johan Bergman's in the car for the Park Hotel Valkenburg squad. Well, I don't have Dutch, but I reckon it was something along the lines of I don't feel great. Should I persevere? He's just 20 years of age, that young Dutch rider. 15th in the Dutch National Under-23 road race last year. And 81st in this morning's opening prologue time trial. So problems for Steph Koenig. No word of the progress of it lately. Obviously, our motorcycles can't be everywhere, but we haven't seen him. Oh, there we go. he's back in the bunch. I had a feeling this one or other of the two things was likely to happen, and he needed that group up front to slow up. And I think the problem is, in such a short stage, nobody's slowing up today, and it's going to be absolutely flat chat. So a bit of frustration for the Eritrean. He went really close to getting in. And if you're not in, you can't win. They'll have to find another way. They do have Leo Bouvier, fine sprinter, a good option for the German bike aid squad. This is a squad we'll keep an eye on for sure. It's going to be interesting to see how Tartan de Mere and his colleagues, Torsten de Mere, from the Tartletto Isarek squad. They have Johnny Marchand, who's competed with great distinction in this race over the last couple of years. Timothy Dupont, of course, won a stage for them 12 months ago. He's not part of their lineup this week, but they have got a very strong lineup that includes Ewout de Keizer, Maxime de Porter, de Mere, as we mentioned, Alex van den Bulke, and Bo Goddard. Best rider is the Keizer, 11th overall. It was the kind of prologue time trial this morning that suits those fast finishers. It was just short enough, really, or just not long enough, I suppose is another way of putting it, to allow the fast finishers, the fast twitch muscle fibers, to still be extremely relevant. I think riders on such a flat time trial will often, such a short one, will often give it a bit of a swing. aforementioned Red Walters with his distinctive Grenada National Road Race Champion colours, and amongst his ex-Speed United teammates. Canadian registered squad. And Walters isn't a bad finisher. He scored results in big bunches in the past. Situation and overall general classification is, of course, the situation of the result of the time trial this morning. Yuri Leitao, just to remind you, 4 seconds margin of victory. Matruba from the Czech Republic, 8 seconds down. Felix Ritzinger, who's in the move today, just 12 seconds down. And Ritzinger, as you can see, is a big, strong, powerful rider. Fifth on the day, Bogdan Zablinski, man with a fascinating heritage in cycling. He's a Cypriot national. His mother is Olga Zablinskaya, who these days represents Kazakhstan, although she has formerly been a Russian national. And of course his grandfather is Oleg Sukhrychenkov, the winner of the 1980 Olympic road race, a very famous figure in racing from the Soviet bloc era, based on the colours of the USSR for many a long year. So well-known family members and some impressive DNA, and we watch out for that Cypriot national who's part of the Soudal Quick-Step development squad. He's in there somewhere and wearing the white jersey of leading under-23 rider, having finished 5th this morning, within 13 seconds of the race lead. Other riders to watch out for: Rowan Baker, the British rider with the Sempiran squad, great effort from 6th today. Andreas Miltiadis, the Cypriot national, so 2 Cyprus riders in the top 7s. That was pretty impressive stuff. Lukas Kubis is the Slovakian rider that I mentioned earlier, that could be one to watch in the final finishing kick to the line, as indeed is George Jackson. 2 riders from the Burgos BH squad from New Zealand in that top 10. Jackson too has scored some decent results in big bunch sprints to the line. And the 10th rider on general classification at the moment is the Austrian rider Josef Dirnbauer at 19 seconds. First 10 riders covered by 19 seconds. And plenty of riders in this bike race still very much in contention. First 100 riders, well actually what have we got? 104 riders within a minute of the race lead. Tilio Viviani is, I believe, one of them, and oh no, he's just outside it actually, so go all in at the time trial, finished 113th at 1 minute and 7 seconds. But Viviani is a fine sprinter. I suspect he'll be part of the lead-out train for Jakub Mareczko. Mareczko's nestled in the line of the Corotec Vini Fantini, and easy to pick out with that. Got the aero helmet on board, maximum advantage. And Viviani also similarly attired. Gaps up to 2 minutes. Well, Marcelo's working really hard here. He's still very much in there. Back in the main peloton is Leitao, watching with fascination. And 2 minutes ought to be well within the compass of this main peloton to close down. And the breakaway will retain energy. There's Leitao in that distinctive blue jersey. And wearing dossard number 1, the reigning champion, defending his title. And it's going to be an interesting week of racing, that's for sure. All eyes will be on a very, very difficult 3rd stage. Tomorrow's 2nd stage takes the riders from Katarini to Karditsa and includes one very difficult mountain. The best aspect of that for many riders will be the fact that it comes almost from the very start. They'll be up that Category 1 ascent. They have another Cat 2 climb a little bit later on, but after the halfway point there's virtually no climbing whatsoever on the ride to Karditsa, and it would be unlikely that it's going to be anything other than a group finish. And then stage 3, which is the only summit finish of the week. So the riders race from Karditsa to Veluki, over a total of 159.71 kilometres. And that includes the tough climb of the Veluki Karpanisi. Lots of climbing through the day. Indeed, you've got a couple of uncategorized climbs that would easily be categorized on any other day. And we've got 2 Cat 2 ascents and then the final or category climb to Karpanisi to complete the affair. That's going to be super demanding day of racing. It's a 12-kilometre climb in actual fact to the finish line, and quite a challenging gradient of north of 8%. We've got a true mountain goat that will scoop the jersey on that day, I feel. And then the fourth and penultimate day of racing is 196 kilometres of racing, and is indeed the longest stage of the week. Again, most of the climbing done early in the stage. There is one little lump relatively close to the finale as they head down to Chakida from Sperseada. Apologies for the pronunciation. There's Aaron Gate. He stays with the Burgos BH squad. His Bolton Equities team folded at the conclusion of 2023, but he's found gainful employment with the Spanish pro team outfit Burgos BH. But in addition to their roster, the experienced Kiwi is. He's a fabulous trackman, of course, medal winner, London in 2012, memory serves. During the week in his bid for glory, will he see the value of heading up the road? Will he be able to? In 3 for the break today. They worked hard to get in. It was a really sustained push. We're coming down to the 50k to go mark, so not much more than an hour left at this kind of rate of racing. And we do have that one climb to come. I didn't mention the final day of racing, by the way, just to complete the tale of the week. It is heading towards the nation's capital and heading towards the Acropolis, Panathinaikos Stadium. And a circuit race. There's a wonderful circuit that has been mapped out in and around the streets of Athens in some of the most important, iconic and historical monuments that this extraordinary nation can offer for your perusal. So it's going to be a wonderful backdrop heading out of the nation's capital and up towards the Acropolis. It's going to be a fabulous final day of racing, a total of 132.5 kilometres, and plenty of circuits for the riders to tune themselves up and psych themselves up for what's likely to be a final bunch kick to the line. Intermediate sprint, just one on offer today, 3, 2 and 1 bonus seconds, so I think our man Ritzinger is really going to want this one. Duly takes it. Calculations, we wait for full confirmation. Full-blooded assault there, wasn't giving it to him too handy. That, interestingly enough, having started the day in 4th position, 3 seconds gained there mean that he is at 9 seconds in general classification. Let me rummage through. To be at 9 seconds means, by my calculations, he's moved up to 4th position. Well, he was already in 4th. What am I saying? He's moved up to within a second of 3rd. So no change in terms of positions, but he's a little bit closer to the line. Yeah, were they to survive, of course, there are 6, 4 and 2 bonus seconds. Most of the other ones. And they're down, and Marcelo has been distance here. Now, I kind of have been half expecting that Marcelo could be the rider who would struggle most in here. I'm making unreasonable assumptions, but based on the time trial performances and the physical stature of the riders, I suspect Marcelo would probably enjoy the climbing. Reasonably. Also, his stage race success, good all-rounder. But he's quickly back on, so that was a solid job. And I think the riders just decided they'd settle in. They want him for as long as possible. And you never know, he could be the one that survives longest. All depends on how they enjoy that that climb to come. The climb, by the way, as we make our way through Alexandria. Climb will be coming. Let me grab my notes. Team Bike, it's a warm enough day, not too warm, but certainly warm enough to require regular replenishment. And on a flat road like this, really difficult to service the riders from the side of the road. Yeah, the climb at Palaio Elefthera Okori is at kilometre 69.3, so that'll be 23.2 kilometres from the finish line, so still a way to go. So we start at 25k before we arrive through Alexandria, which is a famous part of the world. Mathia regional unit of Macedonia in Greece. So teams getting into colour order, some happy enough and content enough to assemble down towards the back. Big wide open roads and a relatively small bunch, 20 teams, 118 riders today, 3 north of the field, so 115 riders in that group. It's not too challenging to move up, and for as long as that remains the case, there won't be too much of a panic or a fight for positions. Having said that, pace is still to ratchet up. Great job being done by those 3 riders up front. 2:48. It's asking a question for sure. Superb job being done by Marcelo. Safely back in the hunt, and his face betraying the effort. 34 years of age, as I say. Spent his entire career racing with continental level squads. Registered in the Philippines, various teams. The Victoria Sports Pro Cycling team. His current home, and previously 711 Click Air 21 by Road Bike Philippines for several years. Now we're starting to see a little bit of extra cooperation. The Corotec Vini Fantini squad setting up second in line. So we've got 2 teams and several riders rotating here. And no doubt they'll start to just ratchet up the intensity a little bit. The Corotec Vini Fantini squad, all eyes on Jakub Mareczko. Took a win on home soil just a couple of weeks ago in a one-day race. It's been thereabouts in various other races of late. Jakub Mareczko, as we said, has Tilio Viviani to assist. And Valerio Conti will look with interest to the climbs to come on day 3. Performances like. Let's get a look at this little interruption. Safely negotiated that. Yeah, Jakub Mareczko non-finished on the final day of racing in Pécs in the Tour de Hungary last week, but that's fair enough. It was a climby kind of day, not really one that would suit him. Did get 3rd on day 1 in the Tour de Hungary against some very strong sprint opposition there. and took the win in the Circuito del Porto Trofeo Arvedi, a 1.2 one-day race in Italy. Just on the 5th, so just 10 days ago at this point. Came through the Presidential Cycling Tour of Turkey without troubling the scorers. But Marechko, having got off the mark with his first win of the season, I think he's going to be one to watch out for in today's stage. Not the only one, of course. Plenty of other sprinters with skin in the game here. Luca Colnaghi of the VF Group Bardiani CSF Faisane squad as well. The blue jerseys just lined up behind the Burgos BH at the moment to get a sight of the bunch. Novo Nordisk putting a rider into the chase. Clearly believe that they've got a shot at this at the glory today. It's a fast-moving peloton. On day one of the Tour of Hellas, coming out of Thessaloniki, the beautiful white tower that formed the backdrop to send the riders on their way, the imposing Ottoman-built fortification. It's a museum these days and a regular visit for every holiday maker to Thessaloniki. And we're heading towards Catorini. Popular beach resort location of Paralia, just outside Catorini, is where we're going to be fishing today. And will these three up front still be in command of the head point? Coming down, 8 seconds gained in the last few kilometers, but not a huge gain. They still have this advantage with 20k to go. It's going to be very interesting. Relatively uncomplicated run-in, although they do have a little sort of left-right wiggle within the final kilometre that could make things interesting, and then a flat-out drag to the line from there. We talk about that when we get a little bit closer to the conclusion of the day. Marcelo bows his head and lets the gap eke out by another few centimeters. A sense that the sheer power and strength, his long levers, is a big unit, isn't he, Ritzinger? Felix Ritzinger, the 27-year-old Austrian, 191 centimeters, 80 kilograms according to the statistics online. Cycling Stats delivering a fascinating array of data presented in entertaining format. Marcelo, I think, is really struggling to do his turn at this point. Down the back of the peloton, the merest hint of a rise in elevation offers an opportunity to distribute some bottles to the main peloton, and Matt King there from the X-Speed United Continental squad just grabs a bottle gratefully. Meanwhile, the Polish representatives, the Maszowsze Sersze Polski squad, Tomasz Buczynski is the rider who's well known. been on some big teams in the past. Team Novo Nordisk, by the way, contributing to the chase. I'll be interested to see exactly who they go for today. Maciej Kupecki's not a bad finisher for them. Went up for the sprints in the recent Presidential Cycling Tour of Turkey, which is UCI Pro Series event. 5th and 4th place finishes in the bunch finishes against some really impressive sprint opposition. So they have options. Kupecki certainly one to watch out for. And of course Andrea Perron as well, very fast finisher, Italian rider, now 35 years of age. We got 9th on the stage of Tour of Turkey, so it really depends on who's feeling well today, who's feeling the best. My gut feeling is that Kupecki shown better recent form. Wyszynski back collecting bottles. Meanwhile, you're never far from the sight of Georgios Bouglas. He's from the Burgos BH squad, but as you can see, he is very much the local hero here. He's the Greece National Road Race champion, and the garnered plenty of attention at the sign-on. The formal presentation of the teams the other day. 3 years of age now, a couple of stage wins in the Tour of Qinghai Lake in Asia, 3 times national road race champion, including the last 2 editions, and way back in 2014 as well, so 8-9 years apart. Bouglas will surely be asked to sacrifice his own ambitions to assist the others. They've got a really solid lineup. Burgos BH, naturally enough, quite a bit of chat about Aaron Gate after his wonderful time trial performance, after his successes in this race over the last couple of years, including the overall success 2 years ago in 2nd place last year. And Aaron Gate has spoken at length about his love of this particular country and the fact that he regularly travels with his partner to Greece for holidays. Got to get the sugars in. It's the new way, isn't it? Well, eating for endurance has long been understood, but it's just gone to a new place in the last 2 or 3 years, hasn't it? The sheer quantity of sugar that these riders take on board is beggars belief. It's almost unsustainable. And it just makes such a difference in... I mean, the riders don't accumulate fatigue to the same extent. They don't go deep into their glycogen reserves, and they're able to last through to the end of... Well, there'll be no problem getting through these couple of hours, but they're eating for tomorrow as well, of course. They want to go deep into those energy reserves at any stage. So 3 teams contributing a rider to the chase, and the gap down to 2:19. So starting to make inroads inside 40 kilometers now on stage 1B. So the first road race opportunity for the riders in the 20th edition of the International Tour of Hellas. Edition, as I mentioned earlier in my opening comments, of an event that was reborn in 2022, newly reimagined, and secures its financial future via contributions from various elements of local and national government. Very much a vehicle to showcase the extraordinary beauty and the remarkable heritage and archaeological history of this proud nation. Tartaletto Isarek squad combining to Israel, except Gianni Marchand, who's taken some significant stage race successes. Let's watch to see the riders. I think this is a replay of the intermediate sprint that happened quite a while ago in Alexandria, but no doubt about the rider getting the top points on offer, and the useful points towards the points classification, and also useful bonus seconds. Confirmed that Felix Ritzinger moves into a situation where he's now just 9 seconds down on general classification. Of course, he's the overall race leader on the road in a virtual sense, but I feel as if the current 2 minutes and 19-second advantage is going to be considerably pared down, or perhaps eliminated completely before the end of the race. So now just over 10 kilometers to the first climb of the week. And first sight of the Greek national team. Not involved in the early break today, so that will change between now and the end of the week. Nicholas Drakos here collecting bottles. Greek national team, as I mentioned, have Arvanitou. Looks to be a great sprint option for them. And Polykrotos Sortsakos is someone to name to conjure with, and one will surely see at some stage during the week. It's a big week for these riders. Massive opportunity. Marcelo's still very much there. And the road is starting to get a little lumpier, isn't it? It's not by any means mountainous, but we're just starting to encounter extra little drags. This might bring it more into Marcelo territory. The relative difference in abilities between the riders is going to be slightly skewed back towards him. Nonetheless, Ritzinger looks very, very solid, doesn't he? His face betraying none of the physical stress, but then I wonder how he's feeling. A 27-year-old Austrian, been in continental teams throughout his career, formerly with the WSA KTM Graz squad, moved across to Team Felbermayr, Simplon Wells it was known last year, and now Team Felbermayr is the current moniker of that continental level team that's been around for a few years at this point. Gap steadies at 2:16. Be interesting to see how they play this climb, just how intense the effort is. Meanwhile, the St. Piran squad of Douglas Hannay. Young rider. St. Piran team's quite an interesting lineup, actually. They're really they're active on social media, as I suppose a lot of teams are, but not all at this level. Very positive, very go-ahead. They have...
all right, just my shoes again, please. All right, just look here. You swap with Bradley. Yeah.
Well, shoes a bit loose. That can be frustrating. Has he got shoe covers on? Yeah, Aerosocks is what a lot of riders wear these days. And when you put the Aerosocks on, if the boa dials aren't absolutely perfectly tuned up for you, then it's kind of frustrating because you can't actually get to them to tighten them up. So a lot of riders just settle for the Aerosocks and ensure that they at least have that adjustment. George Jackson, actually, for the Burgos PH, among those riders in purple in the centre of your shot at the moment, he was a little bit inconvenienced during the rollout, during the neutralised section of almost 10 kilometres at the start of the day. He had to stop, change his shoes and get back in. Slightly worrying moment for the New Zealander. It's all dealt with really quickly. Well, no telegraph pole or street light pole anywhere in Europe, I think, has not been at some stage or another annexed by a member of the avian population. When was that a stork? Storks love those kind of nesting opportunities. Noales from the Victoria Sports Pro Cycling Squad. We just went past. There's the overall race leader, Yuri Leitao. We pick him out. Happy enough to tap along in the wheels of the Bikeate squad at the moment, so hasn't gone looking for his teammates. The Caja Rural squad almost en masse on the front of the peloton, forming a nice little sort of lattice work arrangement with the Corotec Vini Fantini team. Meanwhile, their race leader, and I suspect their best option for the sprint today, Yuri Leitao, is happy enough to just ride along in the wheels, not concerned about that. Great to see the crowds out. Big time bike racing arriving onto the roads of Greece today. Plenty of advance publicity for these stages, and of course the event renewed in the last couple of years. Greater awareness of the presence of the event on the roads of Greece. There you have it, the cooperation between the Caja Rural squads and the Corotec Vini Fantini, serving to pare back the advantage of your riders up front. We're getting intermittent updates on the advantage, so it's kind of like we get a 2:14 and then we'll see after a kilometre or two, so it's not like it's sort of real-time changing. Not too far away from that climb, and coming up to the 30k to go point. It's a great scrap. The problem, of course, for your trio is that if things get a little bit urgent and we're down to 20k to go and it's still, was that 2 minutes and 4 seconds, the update, yeah, 10-second gain now. I think that's what that means rather than 2:40. Slightly unusual. At any rate, as I mentioned, oh, it is 2:40. Well, that's it, confirmed. So that's going up. So that's actually extending their advantage, and that's impressive stuff, and a sustained push from these really strong riders. So from one time trial, in a solo time trial over 6 kilometers, now to 80 potentially kilometers, 75 kilometers of a time trial for these 3 riders. 3 up TTT over 70 kilometers sounds an horrific prospect to some, but these riders are enjoying it, I think. Oh, and it has been revised, is 2:04. That makes a lot more sense. You have to think that that the peloton is starting to make gains. Those riders up front are starting to wilt slightly, and their problem is that as the riders on the front of the peloton chasing behind, equally when they start to wilt a little, there are reinforcements from other squads available, and it's all about judging when you start to make that contribution. No one wants to do it, really. Somebody has to chase, and it almost seemed inevitable that Caja Rural would go to the front. Corotec Vini Fantini as well, happy enough to take responsibility. They want to maximise the opportunity for their sprinter, Jakub Mareczko, and they recognise and realise the status of a rider who has won at the very highest level over the last 10 years. And Mareczko looking to add to his season's tally, just the 1 victory so far. Relatively slim pickings. Inside 30 to go. The gradient has not challenged or troubled these riders at all. And Corotec Vini Fantini calling for more cooperation. think that could be a shout for reinforcements. Second gain. So we'll have a look when we get up and over this little lump. It's a short climb. Yeah, we haven't got any details about the length of the climb and just how demanding it is, but there is a junction exactly a kilometre before the summit of the climb, so I'm kind of guessing it's maybe only a kilometre. And a solid performance from Christoph Janssen, isn't it? Fourth in the 3 time trial championships in 22. That's a pretty good ride, actually. Swiss are notably strong in the time trial and have been for quite a while. Tend to have some pretty big engines, so to be able to challenge for a medal at under 23 level in Switzerland would suggest that there's a decent engine in there. He's coming off a nice second place finish in the Berner Rundfahrt. It's a national level race in Switzerland, but sign of a return to form or an arrival form. Finished second to Diego Casagrande. And not his first visit to Greece this year, in actual fact. He did the Visit South Aegean Islands, a 2.2 level UCI stage race at the beginning of the year. And also rode in the Tour of Rhodes, powered by Rhodos Palace. So a couple of stage races, a couple of short stage races already in the legs of Christoph Janssen. Clearly the X-Speed United Continental squad, eager for and grateful for the invites they're getting from race organisers in this part of the world. So about between 3 and 4 kilometres now to the start of our one and only classified climb of the day. Riders down the back of the peloton, unconcerned at the moment and tapping along. Still just those 3 riders and those 3 teams invested here, so it's kind of been 3 against 3 for a long time. And watching and waiting, the Burgos BH squad, I suppose frustration for Aaron Gate that he didn't manage to take that stage and repeat his success from 12 months ago in the 6 kilometre prologue. It was exactly 6 kilometres last year as well, and Pan Flat, albeit at Heraklion. Plenty of shouting going on in there. Looks relatively relaxed at the moment. Kind of back to school atmosphere about it. Jakub Mareczko in that white helmet. Kind of choppy style, very familiar. He'll be psyched up now for this short climb to ensure he's not on the wrong end of any splits. I kind of think its distance from the finish line is likely to mean that it's not going to have a huge effect on the outcome today. Could have an impact, though, I suppose, on the advantage of these riders. Le Tao continuing that habit of riding along, nestling in the middle of the peloton. Maximum shelter, of course, maximum saving of energy. Does, though, come with the potential risk if there's a touch of wheels. Riders go down. Can be delayed or worse. So there are advantages and disadvantages to this particular policy. When Ritziger goes to the front, he's all power and purpose, isn't he? And Marcelo straight-armed at the back of the line, just trying to recover as best he can. Janssen still with those bent elbows. And of course, the presence of these riders in the break is very much to the benefit of their teammates. No leading out required. They have options up front, and they also are excused any chasing duty. They can watch and take their cue from what the other squads are doing. So that's one way of giving the lead out a little bit of a relaxed day. Had that 3 continental teams in the break, so you wouldn't expect to see, we will expect for sure the UCI Pro teams, and there are 3 on the front of the peloton at the moment, to take command more often during the week. Having said that, the modern way is that the teams at less exalted level, very often no respecters of status. The gradient starts to grip a little. Quite got to where the climb begins, but it'll be interesting to see who has got some legs left for a little bit of a grippy grab here. The climb, of course, as I mentioned, first points of the week. So first rider over the climb has guaranteed a trip to the podium. So it'll be a successful investment in the breakaway for whichever rider is first to the top here. So the total cooperation between these riders just might be slightly reduced, and they'll pause a little bit. Division in the road forces a split. I'll have to hope that little central reservation disappears. It does. And that's always where it's a little bit challenging. Charging in, you require the cooperation, and they seamlessly knit it back together again. Marcelo on the front, albeit briefly. Janssen and Ritziger look like they're able to handle this pace. I don't think there'll be anyone clearing off here. If someone gets dropped, they'll be left to their own devices, but I don't think anyone will be attacking. I don't think there's any advantage. It's such a long way to the line. Each of these riders needs the other two. Average speed 37.3. Do you know, I would have kind of thought it would have been slightly higher. Of course, the flag came in 5 minutes late, so the actual projected times, I think, are based on slightly different numbers, but we're at the 24k to go mark. Yeah, and of course we started 5 minutes late, so by my calculations we're something in the order of 1 minute, maybe 2 minutes ahead of the fastest schedule, so I think it's more like 47 kilometers an hour rather than 37 kilometers an hour. Buncher on the climb as well. Now we're approaching the top. Gradient easing ever so slightly. And Christoph Janssen looks to be in good form. Ritziger a little less so. Marcelo just filling the gap there. Horses for courses. We did mention it. Slightly choppier terrain, not necessarily to the advantage of the rider who's potentially the most powerful in the break. And Andreas Miltiades, no surprise that we're picking out this man who is 7th overall following this morning's time trial. And Miltiades has played pretty impressive role, pretty important role in the destination of honours of several stages in the Tour of Hellas over the last couple of years. So now, within 500 metres of the top of the climb, who's going to get the points? Who's going to get the top points? They're all going to get something. 3, 2 and 1 for what it's worth. It's a category 3 climb. We've got 3, 2 and 1 and an or category climb. The summit finish on day 3 is going to be the maximum haul of points, and also potentially the overall race lead. So it's a relatively flat sprint to the line, so Marcelo really wants this one, and so too does Ritziger. And Ritziger has got the bonus seconds at the intermediate sprint, but Marcelo, fabulous sprint. That was a really impressive kick. Ritziger looked so strong, didn't he, at the first intermediate sprint? Just a couple of percent on average, the gradient. And he needs to keep riding here. We saw that at the intermediate sprint, Marcelo was distanced and found himself having to chase for a little bit. They won't hang around. Oh, listen, he's deep in oxygen after a massive contribution there. He's earned a drink. Feeding for just another couple of kilometres. So Marcelo Felipe takes the top points ahead of Felix Ritziger. Christoph Janssen third across the line. Felipe heading to the podium. He's guaranteed. Now they can settle in to see how much of this advantage they can retain and for how long they will be able to stay out front. Looking good for the peloton at the moment, albeit it is going to be a tough chase. And we'll revise this again once we've had a little look over the top of this climb. Plunging down a fast and not at all technical descent. Slightly different look about the front of the peloton. We've still got that one rider from the Team Novo Nordisk squad doing the pacemaking on the front, but the Vinny Monzon Savine Due OMZ squad, it's of course a Romanian registered team, but as I say, plenty of connections with Italy, and they're just assembling close to the front. The Greek national team as well, putting a riders, plural, close to the front. And this may be as a result of the climb a little bit, and Marechko and Leotau and others just not willing to invest too close to the front. Or it may be, in actual fact, that we've got extra teams that are willing to contribute. And as the Corotec squad go back to the front, I think they're encouraging those riders just to remain thereabouts and maybe just give a bit of a dig out. Gap down to just north of 1.5 minutes. We'll see whether there's any restabilization of the advantage in the next few kilometers. Down to 20k to go. Been an engaging first day of the International Tour of Hellas for 2024. Well, Miltiades from Cyprus, deep in conflab there with Nikiforos Arvanitou. Riders who'll know each other well from various events in this part of the world. Well, it did look to me as if Marcelo was suffering a little bit on the flat and really It was a very impressive push to the finish line. You know, his effective finish line, I suppose, in some ways, most important appointment of the day, that single King of the Mountains assault. So therefore, maybe it's just his style a little bit, and maybe he's not suffering to quite the extent in the wheels and with those breakaway companions as perhaps I first thought. The Mishowsche Polski squad now putting riders on or close to the front, as we're inside 20 kilometers remaining of this relatively brisk and brief 92-kilometer Stage 1B, the first day of racing action. A two-parter, and coming down towards a conclusion now, inside half an hour of racing remaining. Probably closer to 20 minutes. At the kind of speeds these riders will race in, probably something in the order, to be truthful, of about 25 minutes of racing at this point. Team Nova Nord is still available, as indeed the Cortec Vini Fantini squad, and now the Polish representatives. Mishowsche Polski squad, all Polish lineup for them, by the way. Paweł Bernas, Tomasz Buczynski, Konrad Chabok, got Jakub Kaczmarek, Tobias Pawlek, and Kamil Lach. Adrian Banaszek is in the car for them. They got to be feeling it now. For all that it's a relatively short stage, it's been run at pretty close to crescendo pace. It's been flat chat throughout, and the riders off the front and the riders on the front of the peloton have made a much bigger investment than those coasting along the wheels. There'll be a lot of riders with strength in here, and that always makes for a very entertaining and often a very hectic sprint. There'll be an awful lot of teams and riders that believe that they have fresh legs at the start of the week, and also fresh legs from the fact that it's not a particularly long day. As a result, everybody's going to want to get up for this bun fight, and plenty of the teams will have multiple riders available for the lead-outs. It's going to be really interesting. Down to 120. Marcelo's, I think, starting to feel it for sure. He's definitely, when the gradient was 1-2-3%, he just leveled the playing field a little bit. Riders, but on a flat road, a good big one often beats a good little. Although Jakub Mareczko certainly wouldn't want to agree with that. He's a pocket rocket sprinter, isn't he? Very much in the Mark Cavendish mould, if not quite as successful. And Jansen's starting to feel it for sure.
Laten zakken of niet? Kunnen we ons laten zakken?
Now a little bit of a realignment. We've seen the Burgos BH squad move up a little bit. No longer a contribution from the Mishowsche squad. It's more about placing the riders close to the front to contribute, I think. And the Burgos BH team starting to gravitate towards the front of the peloton. Gap down to 120, and Marcelo's really, Felipe's really struggling here just to stay in the wheel. It's funny, isn't it? When the road goes up, he's strongest rider. The road goes down, it's Ritzinger. Literally just taking a drink is a demanding proposition, sitting in the wheels. And now Burgos BH back to assist. So it's the leading lights, the big name teams. A little less of a contribution at the moment from the Caja Rural squad. They haven't been found wanting today. Team of the overall race leader, happy enough to leave it up to other squads and try and freshen their legs collectively for the defence of the overall race lead for Yuri Leitao. Sprint finish in prospect, well, it's still more than a minute advantage. If it's a minute with 10k to go, they have a racer's chance. But this advantage, I think, could start to dwindle quite quickly as we get closer to the finish line. And the big watts starting to be piled on the front. They're definitely stoking the fires, shoving some coal on. Yuri Leitao, I feel, will probably be the protected rider. We'll see for the Caja Rural squad. He is the overall race leader. David Gonzalez is quite a useful finisher as well. Will he be employed in lead-out duty, or will he perhaps have his own opportunity? George Jackson is one to us BH squad. They also have Victor Langelotti, I think, for the overall as well. Aparicio as well. So they have a couple of options for the overall. And every time Ritziger goes to the front, Felipe has to, he's working just as hard just to stay in the wheels. Agonizing stuff. Impressive though. And he'll suffer for as long as he possibly can, inside a minute, the margin. So I think that's key. The peloton need to close this one down and get it within inside a minute, inside 10 kilometers to go. They've achieved that objective, just a little bit further out. So it's all still going to plan for the main peloton. Angulo San Pedro onto the front. Antonio Angulo, 32-year-old Spaniard, been around the block. Charlie Marchand down the back, likely I think to be the general classification option for the Tartaletto Isarek squad. He's won a couple of stage races in recent years at a decent level. It's poetry in motion. I mean, he really is a powerful figure. Terrific to watch it. So the gap's coming down at a rate of knots, and they have them in sight. The peloton, at any rate, if they can't see the riders up front, they can see the support vehicles. So outside 10 kilometers to go, and well inside that minute mark. The lead shrinking rapidly fresh riders available for the chase from the Burgos BH squad, from the Greek national team.
Success.
Still numbers aplenty for the Gorotec Vini Fantini squads. Greek national team believe that today. Interesting, I thought weren't interested in going in the break. We saw very little investment from them. And who's it going to be for today? We're going to see Sotsakos, who in fact is not really a standout sprinter. Most of his successes have come against the watch. 5 national time trial championships. He's also won a couple of road race championships as well, and various overall successes. But Arvanito is one I picked up. Recently got 6th in a bunch kick in an important one-day race in the Netherlands, the Ronde van Overijssel. Drags up almost imperceptibly, but enough really to cause a little bit of agony amongst those breakaway riders, and well, fresh riders arriving at the front of the main peloton. It's going to mean curtains for them. All going to plan. Burgos BH, Aaron Gates nestling and settling at the lineup in that points leader's jersey, albeit of course it's Yuri Leitao that has the early lead in that particular competition. More points to be distributed at the finish line, and it's one of those points competitions, by the way, that offers opportunities for the riders in the intermediate sprints. In several of the other days, well, we've got 5 days of racing. Today we just had 1 intermediate sprint, but on a couple of the days we have 3 intermediate sprints, and on the other 2 days it's 2 intermediate sprints. So bonus points at the line there, and then of course on the climbing day it's not going to be for the sprinters, so it'll be interesting to see how it plays out during the week. Just getting in the break proved challenging today. That was a victory of sorts, wasn't it? Prizes for it. And now we can get the entire bike race into one shot. Felix Ritzinger starting to feel it, that absolute rock steady back, and nonetheless managing to put the power into the pedals. The catch seems inevitable. Just inside 10k to go, the advantage down inside half a minute, and the bunch can sense that they ought to be able to retain those 3 riders. And now I think the maximum focus, probably has been for a while actually, has been on getting their formation in line to get organized for the finish. And what we're going to see, I think, is that washing machine effect, where the teams just sort of scroll and roll their way to the front, and the pace just rises and ratchets up inevitably. Felipe's gone, and that's been coming for a long while. He hasn't really been able to make a contribution for a while. He's worked incredibly hard to stay in there, and eventually, and this is a flat road stuff, and he's in the wheels, but not much in the way of shelter. And those big, powerful riders, their big engines and big levers, just have too much of an advantage. And 3 become 2, and the legs just lock up. I mean, it's not optional. But this was a good day out, and that was the generosity, you know, and the respect shown, because with his last joules of energy he said, you know what, I'll just give a bit of a turn here to these guys and then get into the main peloton. He's got a trip to the podium coming up, and the last bit of energy he had left, and it was an absolutely huge investment for him. He managed to win that King of the Mountain sprint. So chapeau, congratulations to the Filipino rider Marcelo Felipe. We'll see him again before the end of the day. But not going to be battling for stage honours today. Again, to remind you, not particularly demanding finale in terms of confusions inside the final kilometre. We do have a little left-right wiggle. As in a left turn, followed immediately by a right turn. Our riders down at the back of the peloton, so off on the way. And somewhat frustratingly, it's two representatives of the Cyprus national team. But that cyclocross jump to get going looked as if it was going to pay dividends for that rider to retain a position in the main peloton. But unfortunately, it looks like the chain was off, or there was some other mechanical issue, perhaps in the drivetrain. Though on a left-hander, you usually drop it on the left. That's usually good news in terms of not having an impact on the rear derailleur. So the gear mechanism usually doesn't get damaged on left-hand crashes, or less likely to at any rate. So up and around and down and through and away from the big road and down towards the little roads as we head towards a conclusion. 7 and a bit kilometres. And the extras, I mean, I said it's not particularly technical. It's not particularly technical in the final 3 kilometres, apart from that little left-right wiggle inside a kilometre to go. So I haven't seen it myself, so it'll be fascinating to see exactly what it looks like as we get closer to the end of the day. But we do have twists and turns as we make our way out towards the beach. We're in central Macedonia and heading towards Katarini Beach, the Paralia beachside location. Settlement of about 1,000 people, and it's actually 7 kilometres from Katarini, which is the capital of the prefecture of Piraeus. Important tourist centre. Down the back's the other Filipino rider from the Victoria Sports Pro Cycling team, Nojales. Actually, he's a Spanish rider. There are a couple of Filipinos. Chao is the other Filipino on that team. Nonetheless, it's a frenetic pace, and you can often get a sense of it, can't you, when you see the back of the peloton and riders struggling to stay in the wheels. You can imagine the intensity of the effort on the front if those who are riding along in the aerodynamic wake in the draft are also absolutely flying, and some struggling to maintain the pace. But what about this? Witziger just refuses to capitulate. Down to 6 to go. I think it's a little bit less than 30 seconds in fairness. But it can't be much. Can't even be 20. I suspect it's a little bit less than 20. At any rate, they're going to get to the final 5k today, and this has been a wonderful performance by these two riders. Clearly the strength of this breakaway. Felix Witziger makes way for Christoph Janssen onto the front of the breakaway as the two riders trying to hang on for as long as they possibly can. Witziger, 27 years of age, Janssen 24, and they're fairly tall units, 191 and 192 centimeters respectively. Peloton spreading wide across the road, feeling the catch is inevitable, and it's that little phony war that develops, that little calm before the storm, almost the eye of the storm, isn't it? After a long sustained chase, they know that they have their prey dangling on a thread in front of them, and nobody wants to. I mean, there's nothing personal about it. It's not that they're sort of they want to sort of prolong the agony for these riders or anything. It's just that nobody wants to ride on the front in the wind and use up more energy than is necessary. So knowing that they have what they need, everybody wants to just control the front of the peloton and stay there. And a lot of teams would be thinking, we'll just make this the late show and come as late as possible. Mario Conti was quite a way down the line there, the Cortec Vini Fantini rider. unlikely to get involved in the big bun fight at the sprint at the end. Jakub Mareczko will look to Attilio onto the front at the perfect moment, ideally within 200 meters of the finish line. Easier said than done. But we still got a motorcycle in between, so I think the gap's slightly foreshortened. Head on can often be deceptive, but suffice it to say, peloton emerged through the corner. It's less than 10 seconds. Well, time to congratulate these riders. Chapeau, congratulations. Last man standing from a breakaway, which was tough enough to get into in the first place. Really, really hard scrap. Not a very entertaining day. We'll see more from them this week, and Ritzinger, of course, has improved his overall position ahead of day 2. Now just 9 seconds down, albeit there are 6, 4 and 2 bonus seconds. Not quite. Normally at the finishes this week we'll have 10, 6 and 4 bonus seconds, because it's quite a short stage, just 90 odd kilometers. The organisers have pared back the bonus second advantage at the finish line. Down to 3 to go. Coming into the business end of this first day of racing here in the Tour of Hellas, and it's going to be the big bunch kick, the Tardoleto Isarek squad in the centre of your shot, starting to move up and assemble close to the front. We've got the Burgos BH in those purple jerseys, the Greek national squad as well, that white and blue arrangement, and on the right hand side, making their presence felt on the front for the first time in a while, it's the Czech registered Elkov Kasper squad on the right hand side. They've got Lukas Kubis, I think, who's quite a useful sprinter. We'll see who it is that they're going to set up for today. The riders down the back of the peloton at this moment, unlikely to play any further role in the destination of stage honours today. St. Piran squad in the all black colours with the white helmets. Coming down to the 2 kilometers to go mark, Yuri Leitao looking to hang on to that jersey as we see the Park Hotel Valkenburg squad start to put their big Dutch engines on the front. And the green-clad squad from the Netherlands arriving en masse. Elkov Kasper squad as well, taking their tune and taking their turn from what the Park Hotel Valkenburg squad are doing. Now this is this little right, left, right wiggle that I was talking about. We are down into the business end, and this is, everyone wants to own it, down into this left-hander. We saw how dusty the last one was, and a potential touch of wheels here could be disastrous. There's a natural effect in stretching the peloton thin, as not everybody can go in 4 or 5 abreast. Winding it up for the big straight run to the line from here inside the final kilometre, and it's a great investment and great work being done by the Park Hotel Valkenburg squad as they put 3 riders on the front. Can they keep 2 in place all the way to the final 200 metres or so? Well, it's going to be difficult as the all riders touch, and that went incredibly close to being a disastrous moment. Coming down to the dash to the line, and the riders can see the gantry. Park Hotel Valkenburg retaining an interest at the front, but now we're starting to see Team Novo Nordisk. Team Novo Nordisk, they've got Kopecky perhaps. Well, here you have him. It is Yuri Leitao inside the final 100 metres, and Jakub Mareczko coming up around the outside. Riders down, it's a big crash there. Jakub Mareczko's going to get this one. It's a slam dunk from the Corotec Vini Fantini squad as Jakub Mareczko gets up to defeat the race leader, Yuri Leitao. I think he'll hang on to his overall advantage, but a few riders greatly inconvenienced by that, hitting the barriers and all sorts of confusion and problems, and we hope that all those riders are able to jump back up pretty quickly. So a sensational and pretty exciting conclusion to the day, and successfully delivered as Jakub Mareczko gets up to take his second victory in the past couple of weeks, delivering on his favourite status and also delivering for the team that did so much chasing during the day. Now handshakes all round is Jakub Mareczko, the Italian rider of Polish heritage, takes his second victory of the season and a first victory in his visit to the Tour of Hellas. Well, medical crew quickly down to assist those riders, one or two taking a little bit of time to lift themselves up off the tarmac. Of course, they know the race is done at this point, so can take their time recovering with that one. Oh, and that one is painful looking. And is that the young rider Zablinski? I think it could be. Oh, crumbs, it doesn't look so good. He's just holding that left arm rather gingerly. One wonders whether he'll be wrist or even shoulder implications there. At any rate, we'll leave the medical crew to assist that young rider as Jakub Mareczko prepares for a visit to the podium. I'll let the debrief begin. Get a look at this great action here, and Team Novo Nordisk actually got themselves into a very impressive position. A little touch of wheels potentially could have been disastrous. More was to force, so they got closer to the line, but it all got pretty busy. Nice job done by Mareczko to fight his way into a challenging position within the top 10 at this moment. And shorn of teammates, surfing the wheels to glory. And at this moment, looked good, didn't it, for the overall race leader. Yuri Leitao led them into the final 100 metres. Burgos PH rider going down in that instant, but Mareczko's searing and sensational pace, carrying him up and over the race leader. Let's get a look from the head on, see if we can pick out the key moments. A touch of wheels and riders going left and right. Pretty sure that was Zablinski. We'll wait for full confirmation that that was first to go down. But Mareczko, a bike length clear of the overall race leader. Gains 4 seconds. That'll be 8 seconds clear, I think, of Aaron Gate on general classification. Jakub Mareczko was not up in the time trial, nowhere near it this morning. I think he probably took it easy just to ensure that he had every joule of energy required for the victory. But Mareczko starting the day 96th overall at 57 seconds. The major objective for him was to take that stage, and Yuri Leitao would extend his advantage on overall general classification. He'll also extend his lead in the points competition usefully. So not a bad hit out for the Portuguese rider, and an excellent one for Jakub Mareczko. He does what sprinters do, takes another wonderful success. A man who's got 2 overall victories and no less than 18 stage victories in the Tour of Taihu Lake in Asia. 7 stage victories in the Tour of Hainan, loves his trips to Asia. 4 stage victories in the Tour of Langkawi in Malaysia. Extraordinary list of successes. A couple of stage wins in the Presidential Cycling Tour of Turkey a few years ago as well. 3 times a second place finisher in his home Giro d'Italia without quite getting the victory. But he's got a victory today. He is the winner of Stage 1B International Tour of Hellas. He's off to the podium very shortly. Hopefully we can catch up with him. Let's just get a couple of them. And joy unbound for the Corotec Vini Fantini squad. Attilio Viviani there, just involved in the delivery of another great victory for the Vini Fantini squad, or Corotec Vini Fantini. Get a look at this again. This little left-right wiggle actually serves to stretch the bunch thin, and in some ways makes things a little bit less complicated. Big investment here from the Novo Nordisk squad. It looked good, didn't it? Plenty of riders still involved inside 500 metres to go. We're crowding around the outside. It's just hard to sustain it. It's all getting pretty busy and hectic. Leitao, huge effort to move up onto the wheel of Marechko at this moment. Leitao finds himself in the wind again, and that's probably where he left his sprint at this moment. Marechko opting to just wait an extra moment, and Leitao, huge effort, but in reality he'd been sprinting for about 300 metres, even if he didn't quite hit the front until the last 150 metres or so before Jakub Marechko was able to make his way up and around the outside. But nicely judged, nicely timed. It's nothing like winning. It's a habit worth forming, isn't it? And as I say, that's his second win in 10 days after victory in the Circuito del Porto Trofeo Arvedi on home soil in Italy. Now victory on stage 1B, taking the battle from Thessaloniki to Paralia Caterini today. It's confirmation, Jakub Marechko getting the victory ahead of Yuri Leitao, Blake Agnoletto, Mattis Avons as well, getting up for a fine fourth place on the day.
Βλαδίμηρε Πέτσα, θα πηδήξω και να σε φτάσω, σε παρακαλώ πάρα πολύ, έλα εδώ κοντά μου. Έλα εδώ κοντά μου να πάρεις το λόγο.
Penazzi and George Buglas is getting up. There's the 10, that'll get a cheer. Marechko and Leitao heading to the podium very shortly. Plenty of Italian flags in that top 10. A couple of Belgian flags as well. But the Portuguese flag of Yuri Leitao of the Caja Rural squad. The main winner on general classification. Whether Leitao is going to have the legs for the stage 3 summit finish, you wouldn't bet on it, to be honest. But still, good day out for Caja Rural. Get a look at this again, and Marechko taking his cue from Leitao. Stays in the pocket for just long enough, and what are we now? Just inside 100 to go at this point. Maybe 80 metres when he comes off the wheel. Touch of wheels further back, and well, 3 came down, I think, was it? Amazing more weren't implicated. Stage 1 is complete. Riders can now focus their attention on day 2, which is a 169.78 to be incredibly precise. A kilometre run takes the riders from Caterini to Karditsa. Stage of 2 halves, plenty of climbing in the opening 50 kilometres, then a few demands, but by the time they get to the halfway point, pretty much all the climbing is done, and it's a flat ride into what's likely, I suspect, to be another opportunity for the sprinters tomorrow. Gives you a measure of the distance. More than a bike length. So we'll have the podium celebration for you very shortly, and we do hope that we can also catch up with your stage winner, Jakub Marechko. Had a great day out after the Morning time trial. Action was hot and heavy, and as you would expect from a short road stage, they're always fascinating, aren't they? Big scrap for the early break of the day, finally resolved in the favour of three men. They contested the intermediate sprint and the King of the Mountains, but it all came down to the big group finish. Jakub Mareczko avoiding the carnage, cruising to glory.
Νομία της περιοχής εδώ στο Δήμο Κατερίνες, την οποία θα γίνουν όλοι αυτοί οι αθλητές από όλο τον κόσμο.
Πράγματι έτσι είναι. Βρισκόμαστε στους πρόποδες του Ολύμπου και των πιερίων. Τα τοπικά παραδοσιακά προϊόντα είναι, θα έλεγα, σήμα κατά τεθέν. Το ξέρετε κι εσείς, κύριε Πλακίδα, ότι ο εινοτουρισμός είναι το δυνατό μας σημείο. Τα κρασιά μας έχουν γίνει ιδιαίτερα δημοφιλή τα τελευταία χρόνια και νομίζω θα έχετε κι εσείς την ευκαιρία, αλλά και όσοι φιλοξενούνται σήμερα εδώ, δεν ξέρω αν μπορούν και οι αθλητές να το κάνουν, να γευτούν τις υπέροχες γεύσεις μας.
Ευχαριστούμε πολύ την Ελίνα Διαμαντοπούλου, αντιδήμαρχο τουρισμού του Δήμου Κατερίνης.
As you can see, very shortly, our podium presentations will begin. Tend to be elaborate affairs at the Tour of Hellas.
Ο Δήμαρχος ο Γιάννης Οτούμος, ο Δήμαρχος Κατερίνης, είναι ο οικοδεσπότης σε αυτή την πολύ ωραία σημερινή μέρα. Η ποδηλασία έχει και το συμβολισμό, το ποδήλατο πάει μόνο μπροστά, Δήμαρχε.
Αυτό σωστό είναι. Πριν από λίγο καιρό, όταν ήρθαν και μας ζητήσανε να συνδιοργανώσουμε αυτό το αθλητικό γεγονός, ένα παγκόσμιο αθλητικό γεγονός, κατευθείαν χωρίς σκέψη είπα ναι. Τελικά δικαιώθηκα και δικαιωθήκαμε και με την Ελίνα μας εδώ. Έχει γίνει ένα ωραίο αθλητικό event. Έχουμε τους πρώτους 7, 8 και 10 τον Έλληνα από ό,τι άκουσα. Την επόμενη φορά θα τα πάμε καλύτερα. Εδώ είμαστε για πολλά αθλητικά γεγονότα. Ευχαριστούμε πολύ.
Ευχαριστούμε τον Δήμαρχο του Δήμου Κατερίνης, τον Γιάννη Τούμο. Να δούμε λίγο τα κορίτσια και τα αγόρια από τη φραγκική εστία, να παίξει μουσική και να χορέψουν τα αγόρια και τα κορίτσια.
For the confirmation of the finishing order at the conclusion of stage one, Jakub Mareczko gets up for the glory ahead of the overall race leader Yuri Letau. Blake Agnoletto getting up for third on the day ahead of Mons Cataldo, Ludik Godard, Kopetsky, Panazzi, and George Buglas rounding out the top 10 for the host nation.
Συνεννόηση, επικοινωνία, οι οδηγίες, όλα. Εγώ παρακολουθώ χρόνια Ψήρο, Τεφράνς και τα λοιπά. Έχω δει σκηνικά και σκηνικά. Έχω κάνει μηχανές με αυτοκίνητα, με τους αθλητές και θα μείνετε εδώ Κατερίνη και αύριο ξεκινάτε για Καρδιόξα. Ο καιρός δεν είναι και ιδανικότερος, αλλά...
Δεν έχει θερμοκρασία, δεν στέλνονται, κατάλαβες το λέω, δεν σκέφτεται ο ήλιος.
Εντάξει, λίγο αέρας, αλλά μέσα στο πελωτό.
Αλλά αυτή η συνθήκη αν δεν βρέξει είναι ιδανική. Θέλει κάμερα μέσα και έχουμε άλλη κάμερα για να πάει τώρα δεν πάμε πάλι. Δεν έχει μπαταρία αυτό καθόλου.
Μια γυναίκα ήταν. Βγαίνει από πάνω, όλο της στείνεται.
Μπράβο τα κορίτσια και τα αγόρια από το παραδοσιακό χορό της τραγικής εστίας και του Συλλόγου Ελληνικών Κατερίνης.
Κάνει καμιά ρύθμιση. Έχεις τίποτα να γεννήσουμε έναν
Αν σας φωνάξουν αυτοί, θα έχει τεράστια απήχηση. Το ξέρεις? Θα το προτείνω να το πω στην Θεοδόση.
Πες να το Βασίλη που έτσι, έτσι την κουβέντα. Θα ανέβει αν κι άλλο πώς το λίγο στο διάστημα.
Πάρε ένα τηλέφωνο να...
Πες του το όνομα σου πάλι.
Σαρκοσάκης.
Μικρό του.
Γιάννης.
Σαρκοσάκης.
Σίγουρα άλλο θα ρώσει όμικρο.
Σαρκοσάκης. 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 Σάκης.
Σένα του πώς είναι για πιο μεγάλη, γιατί και εγώ το κάνω μικρή βόλτα.
Δεν πιάνεις.
Γιατί εγώ το δεσπάσω εξέλιξα εδώ που είναι πολυχρονάδο.
Στο δώσω άμα θες.
Το δικό σου.
Της εταιρείας σου. Εσύ είναι ακριβώς.
Φυσικά πρέπει να περάσει πιστοποίηση από τον κόλλο της γυναίκας μου και μετά.
Έτσι. Να δώσει πράσινο φως. Έγκριση τύπου.
Λεμονιά και μετά όλα.
Έτσι. Είναι πολύ άνετο και πίσω σου να μην
Μου αρέσει κάτι 1200, 1400, 1800 με το βεστρό. Και λέει η λεμονιά γιατί κιλό θα πάρω αύριο και με λένε το δοκιμάσω λίγο.
So absolutely fabulous local and traditional costumes in evidence here, and wonderful presentation here at the podium. Unfortunately, we are not going to be able to stay for the podium presentation, so we won't see Jakub Mareczko or Yuri Leitao. We'll see them back in action tomorrow. Really looking forward to stage 2 of the Tour of Hellas. For myself, Declan Quigley, and all involved in the broadcast of this wonderful first day of action here in Greece. Thanks for watching, but for now, it's goodbye.
Ευχαριστούμε πάρα πολύ τα κορίτσια από τη Θρακική Εστία. Ήταν υπέροχα όλα όσα μας πρόσφεραν. Τα ευχαριστούμε πάρα πολύ και είμαστε έτοιμοι για τις απονομές.
Να παρακαλέσω λοιπόν την ειδική σύμβουλο επικοινωνίας της ΔΕΗ, την κυρία Χριστίνα Κόραη, να έρθει εδώ κοντά μας στο stage για να ξεκινήσουμε τις απονομές της σημερινής ημέρας. Χριστίνα, καλώς ήρθες ΔΕΗ, καλησπέρα!
Καλησπέρα σε όλους. Ευχαριστούμε πάρα πολύ για την παρουσία σας.
Αυτό που έχω να πω είναι ότι η ΔΕΗ μας έδωσε την ενέργειά της κάτω από 2 ώρες για το πρώτο ετάπ, για τον πρώτο νικητή. Πραγματικά καταπληκτικός χρόνος. Έχουμε την ενέργειά σας.
Την έχουμε λίγο, ναι, έτσι πιστεύω και εγώ και ελπίζω να έτσι να πάει και στα επόμενα ετάπ.
Πάμε λοιπόν να δούμε τον πρώτο νικητή